If you don't think the left is on a slippery slope, just listen to this. The California Democrats had their convention and they had resolutions. And here's one of their resolutions. Whereas protecting First Amendment rights is critical, but is also limited to exclude hate speech, using the concept that offending statements first should be viewed through the lens of the party experiencing the hate, and that Jews, Latinos and Latinas, African American, Asian Pacific Islander, Muslims, disabilities, and LGBTI communities can be targets of oppression and hate speech for a variety of reasons. In other words, anybody who complains can shut you down. And this is the thing. They really do believe this. And, you know, you can watch when you are, the conformity on the left is so great. For instance, Joe Biden, he supported the Hyde Amendment. The Hyde Amendment prevents federal funding on abortions. Here he is in 2007.
Are you still opposed to public funding for abortion?
I still am opposed to public funding to abortion, and the reason I am is, again, it goes to the question of whether or not you are going to impose a view to support something that is not a guaranteed right, but an affirmative action to promote.
See, the thing about this is, the Hyde Amendment is kind of ridiculous because they still support Planned Parenthood, and they say, well, we support the part of Planned Parenthood. Federal government still supports Planned Parenthood, and they say, but yes, but it's not the abortion part. But money is fungible. You can use it. You know, if you support one part, they take the money from that part and they use it for abortions, which is mostly what Planned Parenthood does. So the Hyde Amendment is kind of ridiculous, but it makes people feel better because those people who think abortion is a bad thing don't want their tax dollars going to it. It has to be renewed every year, so it's vulnerable to any Democrat majority. The fact that Biden supported this had to be taken down, so he was bullied into changing his mind. Here he is changing his mind.
For many years as U.S. Senator, I have supported the Hyde Amendment like many others have, because there was sufficient monies and circumstances where women were able to exercise that right. Women of color, poor women, women who are not able to have access. And it was not under attack as it was then, as it is now. But circumstances have changed. If I believe health care is a right, as I do, I can no longer support an amendment that makes that right dependent on someone's zip code. If in fact it was still available, I think, just as I've never attempted to impose my views on anyone else as to when life begins, I have never attempted to impose my view on who should pay for it if people fundamentally disagree with the position we take. But folks, times have changed. I don't think these guys are going to let up.
So people who are in conformist situations or in situations where only one idea is being spoken again and again because they're silencing all the other people, they tend to get radicalized. So what he just said was absurd, right? I don't impose my ideas when life begins. What if I say it begins at 15? Will he impose his ideas then? Of course he does. Of course he'll impose his ideas. We have to impose moral ideas on society. It's just a question of how free people can be. We want people to be as free as possible. When they start killing other people, the freedom stops. So everything he's saying is nonsense. But you become more and more radicalized. Every study shows this. When you associate with only people who agree with you, you become more and more radicalized. I want to play, and then we'll go to the break, but I want to play this woman. Her name is Sophie Lewis, and she's a radical. She's a radical on the subject of abortion. I'm not going to say that she represents anybody in the mainstream. I think she's kind of a loon. But this is what happens. And if you don't think that the slippery slope is slippery, and if you don't think this is where it goes, who will stop it if the rest of us are silenced? Who will stop us? Because we know that what they do on the left all the time is they define their idea as right and our idea as hate. It's not like, oh, you know, we want to accept gay people into society. It's if you disagree that homosexuality is moral, you are hateful. It's not that they want to say, oh, let's stop bullying transgenders. It's they want to say, if you will not speak the words that this man in a dress is actually a woman, you are hateful. And that silences one side, creates conformity, and ultimately creates radicalism. If you don't think, I mean, read the New York Times. It's now a radical, left-wing, woke, racist paper. Okay, and this is where the abortion idea ends up.
And I recognize how controversial this is. A form of killing. It is a form of killing that we need to be able to defend. I am not interested in where a human life starts to exist. I see the forms of making and unmaking each other as sort of continuous processes. The other end of the spectrum is the process of learning how to die well and hold each other and let each other go at the end of our lives as well as at the beginning. But looking at the biology of this kind of hemicorial placentation helps me think about the violence that innocently a fetus meets out vis-a-vis a gestator. And that violence is an unacceptable violence for someone who doesn't want to do gestational work. The violence that gestator meets out to essentially go on strike or exit that workplace is an acceptable violence.
So the baby is committing violence against the mom, so the mom has to kill it to stop the violence. So yeah, a loon, but still, that kind of idea only becomes even possible when you're surrounded by people who all agree that abortion is just a thing. Frankly, at least she's being honest. She's saying, it's killing, yeah, we got to kill these babies. They're eating us alive. These babies are this attack of the babies, and they get inside you. It's, oh my God, it's horrible. You know, so that voice is never going to be silenced. Her voice is never going to be silenced. Nobody is going to say that when a woman comes on and says killing babies is acceptable because of the violence they do to the mother, nobody at the New York Times is going to say that's a problem. But if you date an evangelical woman, you've been radicalized by evil voices such as Milton Friedman. That's the world at the New York Times, folks. And they're coming after you. You don't think they're coming after the First Amendment. You're just not paying attention.